we got some bad news. Canelo Alvarez payday, you want payday, has flopped. Canelo versus Golovkin tree has flopped. Yes, you heard it. I'll explain everything in this video. Stay tuned. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. SLC. That's my acronym. Subscribe, like, and comment. Now, I'm going to put it down like this. This video is not meant to be controversial. We're going to go over some things. However, I know this from my tenure in the sport of boxing, in dealing with certain fighters like Canelo Alvarez. Sometimes the radicals and the Canelo man fans, they don't want to hear things like this. So I'm going to do my best. Make sure you guys just listen to what's being said. If you got comments from me, leave that in the comment section. And we're going to go over the numbers. But I will explain as thoroughly as possible and get you guys out of here. So make sure you guys subscribe. So Dan Rafael, boxing, longtime boxing reporter, has posted this article. You guys see it right there. It says sources say that Canelo versus Triple G3 generates a disappointing 550,000 to 575,000 pay-per-view buys. So right then, before you start saying, oh, boxing ego, oh, you're buying. I didn't write this article, for the record. This is, and he's saying disappointing. You see it. It says disappointing. And I will illustrate throughout this video why these numbers are disappointing. Because I don't know what it is. I think I get a lot of things right. Ego Stradamus. I've been in the game for a while. Whatever the situation is, there's a lot of people that they can't wait to prove me wrong. Like it's like some kind of reward if you can prove Master Ego, the dawn of boxing, if you could prove me wrong. So follow me at Boxing Ego on Twitter and at Boxing Ego 1 on Instagram. I already posted this and I was like, man, the face of boxing flopped, and basically things that I'll discuss in this video. There were a few comments where the people were saying, no, 550,000, 575,000, these reported numbers, which I do believe to be inflated. But they're saying, there was some comments saying and suggesting that this was in fact a win and this was good. And, you know, I seen other comments. They were saying, oh, this is more than any of the PBC fighters. So again, the way I operate is like a courtroom. The PBC fighters or whoever the angry Canelo fans are trying to bring up, PBC has nothing to do with a DAZN production, DAZN boxing pay-per-view, and Canelo flopping. Like, if you were being tried for murder in court and they're trying to sentence you to jail, possibly for life over a murder, you can't get on the stand and say, oh, but Tony shot 2 people. Tony shooting 2 people has nothing to do with what we're talking about. So y'all got to get that out of your system in another way. We're here to talk about the recent fight, Canelo versus Triple G, part 3, and why it's a flop. It has nothing to do with Deontay Wilder. Has nothing to do with Gervonta Davis. Has nothing to do with PBC or Errol Spence or Errol and Crawford. This is about this fight. And I like to make myself abundantly clear because I don't really like to repeat myself. So sources, Canelo versus Triple G3 generates a disappointing 550 to 575,000. Some people were suggesting this was a win, and I will show you why it is not a win. Boom. This article, it says that means Canelo Alvarez Golovkin 3 would have to be considered a major disappointment considering that. It says, according to sources, DAZN needed far more buys, pay-per-view buys, than 600,000 just to break even, given the reported $75 million combined that it guaranteed to the Canelo Alvarez and Golovkin. I know some people are still lost in the sauce. They needed over 600K to break even. And it doesn't tell you exactly what number. It says far more. So that could be 1 million. That could be 890,000, whatever. But that was just to break even. They needed more than 600,000 by X number, right? Just to break even. They overpaid Golovkin, they overpaid Canelo, and they bankrolled on Canelo's ability to generate an audience. And to me, I think Dazn has proven time and time again, their leadership or whoever's pulling the strings, that they're inept. They don't know what they're doing, you know? And I am of the thinking that I believe you have a British company and you look at some of the reps that represent Dazn in the leadership department, and I don't think they know boxing. I don't like Joe Markowski. He doesn't even look like he watches boxing prior to getting involved with Dazn, you know? That's just my speculation, right? And just the judgment calls that I've always talked about on my channel that Dazn has made, they just look egregious. And it's like you're in the business to lose money and hemorrhage money. And to pay Canelo Golovkin 3 $75 million, Canelo is running you into the ground, because that can't feel nice to continually lose on every fight with Canelo Alvarez, right? So let's further the conversation. $75 million, that's just for the main event, Canelo and Golovkin's purses. Obviously, Canelo got the lion's share of the money, right? So what about the undercard? They had to get the undercard fighters and their opponents had to get paid something. And we know Eddie Hearn and Rematch Room, they try to do these elaborate backdrops. They copied PBC, Premier Boxing Champions, with the LED tunnel when the fighters were walking out. All of that stuff costs money. They don't just, the venue doesn't necessarily just have all these things available to you, like a LED tunnel. And, it definitely doesn't have printed backdrops that say Canelo Golovkin 3. And again, the fighters' purses on the undercard and keeping the lights on. And how much does the T-Mobile Arena or whatever venue these fights are happening, how much is their cut? How much is a deposit? So you have to, when you're running an event that's supposed to be big, you have to encompass all of these things. So if you're paying the main event only $75 million, that doesn't include some of the things I just listed. The LED tunnels on the walkout, the undercard, fighters, and their opponents. It doesn't include pyrotechnics because they had fireworks and all this. Some of the singers, maybe some of the singers doing the national anthems and walking out with Canelo, and mariachi bands. That's probably part of a budget, unless they're doing it for free, right? So when you start to tally all these things, you can be in excess of 100 million if two fighters alone, they cost $75 million, right? This is not looking good. Furthermore, and these are all facts you guys can corroborate and do the research, but if you subscribe to my channel, I do the research so you don't have to. Another reason why it's a flop. Boom. You see it right there. And I made sure you guys see it. Canelo versus Golovkin 3, the fight no one asked for, generates 550,000 to 575,000 pay-per-views. Not to mention the promoter of this fight, Eddie Hearn in Rematch Room, did interviews and he said he expected this fight to do 800K to $1 million, right? Speaking of 800K, boom, you guys see it right there. This is an article and it says Canelo versus Caleb Plant draws over 800,000 pay-per-view buys in the US alone. Keep in mind, this fight was on Showtime. So you see, when you have a linear network like Showtime, parented by CBS, they actually did an amazing job at promoting Canelo versus Caleb Plant. They did great business together. As you can see, since the fight had a great live gate, which is, the tickets and the people in attendance, but beyond that, it did almost 1 million buys on pay-per-view, right? At a consistent price, which I'll get to in a second. So that comes with the promotion. You have a network that they were promoting the heck out the fight, and I think Caleb Plant and Canelo did a great job promoting it, slapping and pushing each other. They made it look like some beef. This Triple G fight, no one was really asking for it. Plus, Canelo was coming off a loss to Bivol, and they didn't promote it until the week of the fight. So it's like you're expecting and hoping to lose. That's how I'm taking it, because I don't see how you would expect to win with no all access, no 24/7, no real promotion behind it. And we've already watched the fight for 24 rounds, and anybody who had been paying attention knew that Triple G had been regressing in his career and hadn't looked the same. And this too can account for the sales. So before the people try to prove me wrong and say, oh, 550 is a great number, it's not, because of the expenditures and how much money you're spending on the main event alone. So this is just completely foolish. Because, for example, I know for a fact Caleb Plant got paid, but he didn't get paid 25 million that Golovkin got paid. And guess what? Caleb Plant Canelo was a better fight. Golovkin didn't really even start throwing anything outside of a jab until after round 8. So Caleb Plant, when he fought Canelo, he only had 21 fights, and he put up a better promotion, and he put up a better fight with Canelo. That the whole shebang was better. Like the promotion behind it, the action at the press conference, the entertaining, there was like a lot of viral moments, and then, you know, the outcome. This was, nothing was viral. That's why DAZN, they have on their free YouTube, days after the pay-per-view, they put the fight on for free on YouTube, the whole entire fight, right? This can't be good, especially at that price point that they had to pay Canelo. So Canelo's star power continues to dwindle. This is not even up for discussion. You don't need to bring up any PBC fighters, or this is about Canelo. He's supposed to be the face of boxing and the number one promoted and number one pound for pound with this great resume, and he's not drawing the same. Another thing, since a lot of you wanted to correct me, which you can't, in business, the goal is year upon year to have a better fiscal year this year than you did the previous year. That's called progressing and thriving. You want your business to be progressive. If you open a restaurant in 2000, you don't in 2022 want to be making less money than you made in 2000. And if you did, then that would suggest that there's some kind of problem. Maybe the customer service is down, or the quality of the food over the years has changed, but that's something that you would have to resolve ASAP. Otherwise, you could be out of business. You don't want to be out of business, and you don't want to make less money than you were previously making. It just doesn't make sense for business. So I said that to say this. Every single Canelo Golovkin fight pay-per-view buy rate has gotten worse. The first fight did, let's say it was like 1.4 million, 1.3 million. The second fight did 1.1 million. And then this fight, they're alleging it did 550. So that shows you there was some space in between and people forgot about it, or lost interest, or it wasn't promoted well, or it could be a combination of all these things that I've said throughout this video, right? Not being promoted good. People fell out of interest with the Triple G rivalry. It was at a new weight class. Plus Canelo's coming off a loss. So this is just an L for Canelo, L for Eddie Hearn, L for DAZN. They were saying that they were going to do 800. And really, there's no guarantee that these numbers did really any better than the Bivol fight. And the Bivol fight was a loss. So what does that suggest? Canelo has a rivalry, and he's doing less money than he did on Showtime with the guy who only had 21 fights in Caleb Plant that he had never even fought before. Versus he fought Triple G 2 times, and there was reported controversy in both of those fights. But this fight is putting up these abysmal numbers. Not good. And again, I believe this number is a fake number, and it's an inflated number. But even as it sits, even if it is 550 to 575,000, it's still a flop. Not to mention DAZN had multiple price points. If you were a customer already, it was a little bit cheaper. And if you were new and you had to subscribe or whatever, then it's a higher price point. Man, this is an L, bro. I'll be talking about this a lot more. Subscribe, like, and comment. But that's for the knuckleheads that try to go against me. I'm here to report the facts. If you're not with that, then, you know, unsubscribe to my channel. But for those who want boxing and content in its truest form, hit the subscribe button. We need about 1,000 more likes to hit 300,000. We're working. So make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. I'll keep you guys posted. And I'm out.